Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Galactic Core Podcast. Episodes are coming thick and fast at the moment. Had 2 last week. I've got 2 going on this week. Multiple episodes of Andor on the way. Thunderbolts after that. We've got a busy summer coming. So make sure you're tuning into every episode. As always, you can find the Galactic Core Podcast across YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts if you prefer just having a listen rather than watching. But make sure you're following and subscribing to everything that we're doing, because there's a lot going on at the moment and a lot to follow. Just had our 2nd anniversary episode last weekend as well. 5 different podcasts came on. It was a lot of fun and games. I proved myself the king as I won the ultimate Star Wars quiz. So it's always good to be the champion of that. So tune into that one if you missed it. It was a really good fun time as well. But this week we are here to talk about Daredevil episode 9, the finale of the Born Again series. And of course, I have a fantastic guest to come on. She came on previously to discuss Deadpool and Wolverine back in the summertime. And I'm absolutely thrilled that she has agreed to come back on to discuss the finale. Everyone welcome Megan from the Vigilante Vibes Podcast.
Hi, I'm so excited to be back.
Thank you, Megan. How you doing? How's things?
Good. Tired, but we're trucking through.
As always, you've been really busy recently, haven't you, with your little show?
Yes, very much so. I think it's been like an average of 4 different kinds of episodes a week now being put out.
That's quite a lot of content, to be fair.
I know, it's so much.
You're really getting through a lot of stuff as well. You've got something that really intrigued me as well that I've liked listening to, because I've got a lot of friends in that community as well, and it's really good to see you doing it. The Elevating the Nerdy Voices of the Rainbow episodes you've been doing. Just tell us a little about that, because I've really loved those episodes.
Yeah, so basically I bring on a nerd of the LGBTQ communities, and I put a spotlight on them, and they get to talk about whatever they want. It is their episode. So some like to talk about the gay representation in nerd culture, or some don't want to talk about that at all. They just want to be involved. So I just had one where we only spoke about Dazzler. The entire hour and 15 minutes was just about Dazzler. So it's completely up to them to, make them comfortable, give them a place to have their voice where it won't be judged. And I've gotten such great feedback on it from people who are in those communities who don't get to see these people who are nerds just like them. So I've made a lot of great friends in it.
Nice. That's really good to see that you're going to that sort of length as well, just to give them a bit of opportunity, just to, like you said, put the spotlight on what they want to talk about and their community as well, and what's important to them. So my best friend is lesbian, and it's always good when she gets excited about the representation that they get in films or TV shows that you don't normally get to see from maybe a straight person's point of view. So I absolutely love the fact that you're doing those episodes and you're getting to shine that light for those people. So amazing work on that.
Thank you.
Have you got anything big coming up for the summertime on the show?
No. I don't plan out anything. Every day is different. Like this morning, I woke up and was like, you know what? After I go on the Galactic Core podcast, I'm gonna make something for Superman Day, and then something for Franklin Richards. And it's like, just calm down. Good Lord.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just non-stop here, though, isn't it, when it comes to these types of things, especially with the busy few months we've got coming up. So
yes, we are going to be eating very, very well.
Indeed. Have you been keeping track of what's been happening first day Star Wars Celebration?
Yeah, actually, because I was keeping track and I posted stuff about it. Now I'm suspended from Facebook for 3 days for copyright. Oh, that's great. But yes, I kept up with it last night. I think tonight is supposed to be Ahsoka, I think.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. You won't see me post about it, so hope you guys enjoy.
Well, it came out at 3 a.m. for me, all the news. So I was fast asleep and dead to the world. So I woke up this morning and just sat in bed just going through, okay, what happened? Let me see everything. So super excited to see what else they've got for the weekend. But yeah, so much coming up. And we're going to definitely say that we're going to be eating well for the rest of the next few months, that's for sure. So since we are here, though, to talk Daredevil, Marvel itself, as always, whenever we do a Marvel review, I'd like to have a little game of the most pointless game in podcast history. So why don't we play a little game of MCU or real life you? So if you're not familiar with this game, yes, it is the most pointless game in podcast history. It means absolutely nothing at all. The aim of the game is that I'm going to give you an MCU character, the real life actor or actress that plays them. And normally I would go with, say, your co-host, or if you don't have one, then I would normally ask you to pick your partner. And what you have to do is pick between those three people. Who would you rather spend the day with? You can do whatever you want, go to a theme park, go out for dinner, just spend the day generally doing whatever you feel like with this person. So I'm going to give you, because it's Daredevil, we're going to go Daredevil specific in terms of characters and actors and actresses. So and I always have to put the stipulation now, since people complained about it, is that if you pick like an evil person, so for example, if you decided to spend the day with Kingpin, you are in no physical danger. He will not kill you. You won't piss him off or anything like that. Just because I asked someone before and they were like, I'm not picking Kingpin because he would murder me. And I'm like, it's fine. You won't disappoint him. It's absolutely fine.
Yeah, you're just friendly hanging out with them.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Even though they might do some nefarious things, you're absolutely safe.
Look, Kingpin couldn't take me anyways. I'm not too worried.
That's fair. I imagine you can probably squish his skull in much more than he could do yours. So.
Like a grape.
Yeah, fair. Absolutely fair. So let's start off then. The first one, we've got Foggy Nelson, the actor that plays him, Eldon Henson, or your lovely partner. Who would you rather spend the day with? By the way, can I just say, half of the point of why I designed this game was just to cause a little bit of fun friction between people when they didn't pick their co-hosts or their partners or anything like that. So don't be afraid to not pick your partner if you feel like it.
I would say my partner, because I feel like Foggy, as fun as he is, he would bring Karen, and I don't like Karen.
I think that's fair enough. That's absolutely fair enough. Okay, let's go with your second pick then. So would you rather spend the day with Heather Glenn, so Matt Murdock's girlfriend? Would you rather spend the day with the actress that plays her, Margarita Leveva? Or would you rather spend the day with your partner?
I have so many things to say to Heather Glenn, so I think Heather Glenn.
Any of them good things?
No. But if they were, I would probably try to get like a free therapy session out of her. So like either way, it could go bad or good, but I'm benefiting.
Considering who she's been counselling or doing therapy sessions with in the series, I'm not sure I trust her as a therapist any more than as a girlfriend or person in general, to be fair.
If that's the case, then I have many things to say to her.
I mean, she's doing the fisks. She had Muse. She's like telling Matt that as on a professional level, she's worried, and I'm like, okay, give it a rest, love. So maybe
look, you're spending all your time worried about your boyfriend. Meanwhile, you're with the Fisks, who you should be worried about yourself. Then you had Muse, and then you said you know what? We can talk about this later.
Yeah, okay. We'll get into it. It's all good. Get into it. Okay, last pick then. We're going to go for the big heavy hitter of the show himself. So would you rather spend the day with Matt Murdock, Charlie Cox, or your partner? Who would you rather spend the day with?
Charlie Cox. Matt Murdock is great, but I feel like he'd be kind of boring if you're not into lawyer stuff. And Charlie Cox seems like he would be a lot more fun. He's very funny.
He is, to be fair. He's a great actor as well. He's been in quite a few bits and pieces. So I think that's a fairly solid choice. I don't think there's any complaints all around there. But yeah, that was it. Literally the most pointless game in podcast history. Nothing to it.
I think it's fun.
It's a little bit. I always like, it's always fun when I get 2 or 3 people from the same podcast on and then pit them against each other. Because it always it causes some friction sometimes, but fun friction, nothing serious. But it's all a bit of fun. I like to see them have a go at each other and go, "Why aren't you spending the day with me?" and just see what happens from there. So, but thank you for that one, Megan. That wraps up another round of MCU or real life you. Let's crack into it then. So we're here today, Daredevil Born Again, episode 9. Before we jump right into the episode though, how have you been enjoying the series up until the finale?
I've loved it. I thought it was a perfect continuation of, well, not perfect. I do have things about it, but I'd say near perfect continuation of the Netflix show.
I have had issues with it as well, but for the most part, yes, it was enjoyable. I think it's easy to see where the new writing team came in and which bits they did compared to what was already done. And there is some bits there, and there's some interesting uses of maybe sideline comic book characters in this series, and maybe twisted them from what their original purpose was in the comics to fit into this narrative. So that's been interesting as well. What's been in episode 1 to 8? What's been your favorite episode out of those?
Oh, probably the second to last. I would say that was probably number 8. That was probably one of the best ones. Everything about it was just like a full course meal was served to us.
I loved in that episode how they built up Matt's tension and his paranoia and everything, that almost felt like they should have just let it explode at the end, and instead he just saves the man that he hates the most. So
Yes.
it's absolutely interesting, to be fair.
Yeah, the directors and producers said like that he did that because he's Daredevil. That was Daredevil coming out. Daredevil is a hero. It's not about Matt's feelings anymore.
That's fair. I always thought it'd be interesting that if, like, the paper circulating the next day that said, attempted assassination on Mayor Fisk, but a blind lawyer who put him in prison 10 years ago is the one that saves him this time round. I was like, that could have been a really interesting story in the papers. It would have been interesting to see if they'd maybe gone back to the bulletin and had someone looking at that story and gone, what, does this make sense that this lawyer saves him from getting killed and yet he's the one that put him in prison 10 years ago? I thought they could have played a bit more on that, but obviously maybe it was just a bit too much to add in, but that would have been interesting, I thought. But coming then to the finale episode, what were your expectations before watching it? What were you expecting to happen? What did you want to see happen?
I thought we would see some defenders. I thought we would see some characters be brought in, but we did not. But it's like this was originally halfway through the season before they split it. So this was a mid-season episode that is now the finale. So I guess I should have rethought that one.
I know what you mean, because I'm absolutely sure that Kristen Ritter posted a cryptic, like Jessica Jones outfit, and was just like, good to be back, or whatever it was that she posted.
She's posted so many things. Like she was in New York when they were filming. She's worn Daredevil shows. She's posted pictures of her as Jessica Jones, like Throwback Thursday or something. It's like, okay, you can stop fishing. You already caught us.
So maybe that's part of what we're going to see in series 2 that she was filming for. But yeah, I was expecting definitely a Jessica Jones cameo somewhere, that she pulls him out of a fight or something like that. Excuse me. I was expecting to see an all-out. I mean, my prediction was that we were going to see an all-out brawl between the Anti-Vigilante Task Force, Bullseye, Punisher, and Daredevil. I expected all of them to be going at it in a big epic scene. I also expected there to be at least 1 or 2 major deaths in this episode. In terms of, I picked out Vanessa and Heather as being 2 that would get killed in the finale. Obviously, this is a multi-series storyline, so maybe, like you said, in the fact that I'm not thinking about the fact that this was originally something that they've now cut in half and wasn't originally like that, and so maybe that's going to happen later. But yeah, I seriously expected like Bullseye to kill off Vanessa and maybe Heather get caught in the crossfire somewhere in the episode. And so obviously, full on spoilers, that's not happened. And I was left a little bit disappointed because yet again my predictions turned out to be absolutely rubbish.
Mine too. Why do I suck at this? I did think Heather was done in episode 8, but then in episode 9, I was like, they're not killing off Bullseye, and if Bullseye gets involved with a fight with Punisher and Daredevil, he's done. He's dying. So I was like, we're not going to see too much of him.
As good
which
as
which I love Bullseye and the actor. He's so hot.
Yeah, fair. I can actually see that one, to be fair. I mean, he's had his ass kicked by Daredevil a couple of times now, isn't it? So, although it's interesting, I posed a few people this question. No one seems to be able to know whether it's a thing, but obviously when Matt goes to see him in prison, and he's like obviously pleading with him, saying, "Oh, you're never going to know what happened unless you get me out of here." And then Matt slams his face into the desk a couple of times, causing him to go to like the infirmary, which gets him his chance to escape. So do you think Matt did that on purpose, thinking that's going to get him a chance to escape and I can find out the truth? Or did Matt just snap in that moment and just slam his face a few times because he wanted to?
I think he snapped. I don't think he did it because that would mean he would know that he would be responsible for the death of some of the people that Bullseye killed.
I think that's fair. I wasn't quite sure at times. I think it was like everyone was trying to work out if Vanessa was actually setting Kingpin up to get shot by Luca, or whether she was like setting Luca up. And obviously it was revealed the next episode, she was on Fisk's side. But yeah, it's just that thing of playing with us a little bit, and it's like, oh, are they together? Are they not together? What's going on?
Well, I also think Daredevil doesn't know the extent of his power. Like, who would know that he could do that? Who'd know that if he broke his tooth, he could do that? It's a lot that I just don't see it. I think you can look at it a certain way and say, oh, yeah, he did that on purpose. But then if you agree with that, then you're going against completely what Daredevil's about. How many times has he said, I'm not going to kill. I won't be involved with killing. If he gave Bullseye a way out, that would involve killing.
That's fair. Although, he teams up with Frank Castle, knowing exactly what Frank's intentions are every single time. And we even see it in this episode.
I love their friendship, their frenemy-ship. I love them so much. I want so much more of those two together just talking, like when he calls him an a-hole. I love it.
It's just, we're going to get into it, but just the little bits where, like, when he walks back into his apartment after leaving the hospital, and he just has a smile on his face because he knows Frank's there, and he just sits down and he's like, I didn't expect you to be here, and he's like, well, I'm doing someone a favor, and they're all just like, who's the gown for? He's like, what did they call you now? What was it, like a gown man or whatever it was? And he's like, you had a shave and some aftershave. Is that for me? And it's just like, yep, definitely for you, mate. So yeah, just their banter back and forth. I do love the philosophical conversations they used to have, though, like from the Netflix series and even the earlier episode in this season that we got. Those two just have, as actors, great chemistry together and play this character so well. But Matt's working with killers. It's not like we haven't seen him do this before, so he's absolutely fine. And obviously in season 2 of Daredevil, we had no problem watching Frank gun down some of the hand on that rooftop when him and Elektra were going to fight them. So he seems to have no problem a lot of the time with Frank doing that, but then he just doesn't let other people do it.
I think with Frank, when you talk about the philosophical talks, I think that was when they were getting to know each other. Now they know each other, so they can make these little quips to each other. They're comfortable. But with the killing, I think Daredevil knows that this is who Frank is. He's going to kill regardless. He's not going to put Frank down to stop him from doing it, but he's like, but you won't do it on my behalf. It won't be because of me.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's get into this properly, into the finale episode then. So give me your first impressions of it when you finished watching the episode. How were you feeling? What did you think about it all?
I was super, super excited because my favorite comic book event is Devil's Reign. And that's where it looks like it's going. And I'm so excited for that. It's are you aware of Devil's Reign?
Yes, indeed I am. Yeah.
Good. What did you think of it?
I think sometimes I set myself such high expectations of what I want to come out of the episode that sometimes I sit there and in the immediate aftermath, I'm both so excited and then slightly disappointed because I wanted like an all-out brawl between the Task Force, Bullseye, Punisher, Dead. I wanted like a big street scene going on and it just didn't happen. I'm like, oh, we kind of felt like we missed a beat there. The way that some of the episode went down and the fact that like Frank later in the episode obviously goes off and just walks into the task force without seemingly much of a plan. He just walks in there, whether his plan was to get captured and confront them or whatever. It just seemed a bit rough for me, and that's not necessarily what Frank Castle would have done. He normally has a plan and a very like direct head-on way of doing things, but doesn't normally walk in. And just the fact that this task force, by the way, seems to be a lot bigger than I thought it was in terms of the amount of officers involved.
Yeah, I think everyone was like, it's the whole NYPD that's involved.
It kind of seems to be like, in the fact that obviously they're in, was it Red Hook, and there seems to be like hundreds of officers involved in this task force rather than just like what we thought, what we've seen on screen, which was like 10, 15 of them. I thought that's what it was. And then, so I was like, yeah, Frank and Daredevil can take that amount out easily. And then, and then there's just hundreds of them there. So yeah, I was still excited the way this went. And obviously I've always said I'm never a fan of ending series on a cliffhanger. Like, I don't know if you see it, but like old school TV series, when I say old school, I mean like maybe 90s, early 2000s, everything was self-contained within a season. So they would finish the storyline in the one season. And then they sort of started merging into the fact that everything would start ending on a cliffhanger and roll over to the start of the next season. And I like having a self-contained season where you don't necessarily have to wait for the next season, because then you get situations where sometimes show gets cancelled on a cliffhanger and you never get an end to the story. And so I'm not always a fan of it. But here I understand, as you said, they've taken what was previously done, chopped it into two, made 2 series out of it. So this was always going to roll over. It was never going to be a single series storyline. But I still would have, I think, liked a more rounded ending to this, rather than, although having said that, people are saying it's like the Infinity War ending where the bad guy wins, essentially. Fisk has got the city on lockdown, essentially. He's got his task force in place, and he's declared martial law in the city. So let's start with Fisk in that situation. Like, how did you feel about he just gets... I mean, I looked into this straight after the episode. I was like, I don't know obviously much about American law. I'm not American. So I Googled, and I was like, can a mayor declare martial law in a city? And they're like, nope, only the governor can. The mayor can't do it. And the federal government, has the ability to step in if they feel it's like it's a misuse of power. And I'm like, I feel like this would happen in this situation. If this happened in the real world, like the mayor of New York declared martial law, first of all, you wouldn't be allowed to do that. Second of all, I feel like the federal government would step in and go, one assassination attempt that failed isn't enough for you to lock down a city like New York and put it under martial law. So maybe I'm taking too much real world actions into the thoughts of a fictional series here, but what were your views on Fisk and the whole lockdown situation?
I think with him establishing martial law, I don't think anyone's gonna tell him no when he has like a third of New York City on his task force. I don't think no one's gonna say anything to him. So I'd like that he did it, because it's like, we are spicing up right now. This is amazing, because you have to think, how is Daredevil able to get an army when they can't move at night?
I feel like, to be fair, though, for a lot of the skilled vigilantes, this wouldn't be too much of an issue. Although we know it's obviously going to be the Defenders that come together for Series 2. That's the army that he's putting together.
Maybe, or the Hand, which is also comic accurate. So,
this is true.
Yeah, in Devil's Reign, it's all the vigilantes. But there's other comics where it's the Hand. And in those comics, have you seen the spoiler pictures from season 2?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. In those comics, he's wearing the black suit with the red DDs. So
this is something that I've been discussing with some friends. I think the only thing I put to that, though, is the Hand were technically wiped out in the Defender series. Like, they went across, obviously, a few seasons of Daredevil and Iron Fist, and then they were kind of wiped out at the end of the Defenders. So I do question whether the Hand was still around. But then again, you could say that the Hand are obviously such a global organization that other people couldn't step up in their place. You just don't have the original 5 from Kamatage, because they were all killed essentially in Defenders, weren't they? So doesn't mean that the Hand couldn't live on beyond that and just have new leaders.
Well, plus also they weren't brought up at all this season, so it's like, you're just gonna go have no reference to them whatsoever and then bring them in?
So it would be interesting if it was the Hand. I've heard a few people mention it. So I think the other question about the lockdown is, how does this affect the other off-screen vigilantes? We obviously, what's been talked about a lot is obviously someone like Spider-Man. We know, obviously, due to rights issues, that he's never going to make any sort of appearance in the TV shows. I wish they'd just sort that out already and just go. I know it's a cash cow for Sony, but the Sony's terrible history.
Is it a cash cow anymore? Because they said that the Sony verse is done.
But so I mean, just having Spider-Man alone, in terms of just the rights to him, and they must get a lot of merchandise sales and everything else that goes with having the Spider-Man name. Even though it's a Marvel name, still they must still get a lot of kickback from that. And just having Marvel handling the main character whilst they get their name attached to it just seems like something that they wouldn't probably want to let go of just yet. I think Marvel should just bite the bullet and go, "How much do you want? Just tell us the figure." We'll give you 10% of his marketing or merchandise rights for the next 50 years or whatever. Just give him a number and just get the full rights back and use them however you want, then, isn't it? So
just do it. You'd be the real heroes for doing that.
But yeah, how do you think it's because I questioned whether this how this season's gone in terms of the lockdown and stuff, whether this would affect Thunderbolts in a way, or whether Thunderbolts might take place a little bit before the ending of Daredevil, so it doesn't affect it. Or whether, because we saw obviously in some of the trailers the fact that there was like a court scene where they're saying, the Avengers aren't coming. There's no one here to look after us, so that's why we're going to need the Thunderbolts to do it. And so the fact that they're like cracking down on vigilantes means there's no one willing to come forward to help, whether that affects Thunderbolts or not. But also, I was thinking, obviously, if you talk about the other vigilantes, which I was getting at, which is, if you look at the likes of Spider-Man, Moon Knight, Kate Bishop, Doctor Strange, even, and Wong, you can include those in there. Hulk, maybe. What do you see? We're probably not going to see it, are we? How much this affects other vigilantes? It's just probably going to be a self-contained story to Daredevil. Do you reckon?
I think it'll contain characters from the Netflix shows. Spider-Man, no, it's not going to. We might get a reference, but it's not going to have Spider-Man. With Thunderbolts, I feel like Thunderbolts I don't know this for sure, but I feel like it takes place before Captain America Brave New World, because they say there's no Avengers helping. It's like, Captain America's right there. Like,
yeah.
Okay. So I really think that's the timeline. But with the other vigilantes, I think we'll see like Luke Cage, Misty Knight, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, obviously. Swordsman's going to be involved in that. I think we're going to see all those really grounded characters, which we should, because it's a very street level show. I don't think they're going to go for any magical characters like Wong. I don't think so.
I mean, we've been a bit too long now without seeing Wong. He was all over Phase 4 and the start of Phase 5, and then we haven't seen him for a while. So maybe get him in for a little cameo in Season 2, the return of Wong. Okay, then. So let's rewind a little bit in the episode. The situation between Vanessa, Fisk, and Bullseye. So obviously, sort of, Vanessa wants to tell Fisk. He's like, I know, essentially. He's like, I know what happened. Obviously, they've become closer than ever. But just seeing Fisk return more and more to Kingpin, and the fact that he said to her, before we could move millions through Red Hook, with all the resources I have now, we can do it billions. And obviously, it's revealed that Red Hook is like a free port. So it's not under jurisdiction of New York or even the United States. So no matter what crimes committed there, it doesn't matter. How have you seen the story between Vanessa and Fisk evolve this season? Are you happy with it? Did you like the fact that there was a barrier between them at the start because she'd been running the business while he'd been away? And we also find out as well that he got acquitted from the events of season 3 because of the whole corruption of the FBI.
Yeah. I actually really liked their whole arc for this season. I liked it. It felt very real. I think if he just came back after getting shot in the eye and leaving Vanessa for a while, I think it would be very, very unrelatable if she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're back. Take up everything. You're right. You're involved. You're the kingpin. You are in charge of everything." I think that would be very, very, very unlike Vanessa, especially this woman who has turned into her own boss and has handled everything. So I like seeing their struggles too and working it out, because it shows us a deeper relationship between those two, and it shows that they're also human too.
And we got to see just how much of I guess a leader she is in her own right, and the fact that we know that she's been in charge of like the 5 families and earning them and herself millions. Excuse me, but also the way that she went and saw Bullseye in the mental hospital, and in a way almost manipulated him by saying, I can give you, your freedom if you agree to go and kill these people for me. And just the simple manipulation that she's obviously either learned or has always had in her.
Yeah, that was a really horrible scene. Like, it was good. It was great. But like, I felt so bad for him, because he needs help. He needs this mental help. And she just takes his pills from him. And she's like, look, I need you to go like kill some people. I understand you're going through it right now, but this is what you're going to do.
Yeah, it was. It's pretty hard to watch someone who's in obviously a bad mental state get such taken advantage of there. But again, just doing what she needs to do in order to do it. And she must have known the ramifications it could possibly bring if she's killing off someone like Foggy, because she obviously knew who Matt was before as well. And so the ramifications that could possibly bring, you can't really feel too bad for her in the way that this has now come down on her. Was the only surprise maybe do you think it was a surprise that Bullseye tried to kill Fisk instead of her, or was it just that the deeper cuts from the way that Fisk had manipulated him before was just too much for him?
I don't think it was a surprise because I think no matter which one of the Fisks he killed, he would be hurting the other person.
Mm,
So him going for
yeah,
Kingpin, he knew he would hurt Vanessa too.
fair enough. And let's talk about the big Fisk moment for this episode. We were promised something outrageous, something gory, and we absolutely see it when the fact that starting the story off like Fisk had asked, was it Sheila, wasn't it? She's got a rear to the ground. Anyone that's not 100% with him, she needs to report. The police commissioner Gallo obviously asks Sheila for support and the fact that he was going to go in up against Fisk. She then obviously reports him. And they take him to the Red Hook site and basically put him on his knees, and then Fisk absolutely squishes his jaw and head and completely obliterates him.
And they showed it.
Yeah.
I remember watching it and I had to look away because I can't do blood. I can't. And I remember saying out loud, "This is Disney Plus. What are we doing?" But it was promised. Vincent D'Onofrio said, like, I can't believe they put a scene in there in the show. And when it happened, I was like, that's the scene. That's what he meant.
And the practical effects used as well.
Yeah.
I saw an interview with the director saying that they did this in 2 takes. They had to because they didn't have much of the prosthetics to use. But I think they said the first take, the blood pattern just went a bit, it was just not right for them. And then the second one, he did it in such a way that the blood just spurted right. And he's just like, they were like, beautiful, we've got it. So the fact that they used practical effects to do that as well, it wasn't just like CGI or anything like that. And just, they promised a score. They promised us that this would be a hardcore series and that we would see bone shattering and other things. And well, they actually delivered this time, haven't they? So definitely was expecting that. I did yell out on this when I sat on the sofa watching that. Going, oh my god, I did not expect that to actually happen.
Well, I remember everyone saying, like, it doesn't matter what they do in this show, it'll never be as graphic as when they did with Kingpin smashed the head in the car door scene. Well, guess what? You dared them to, and they did. They gave us something way more.
They literally killed it in this one. So
yeah.
Let's talk then about probably the biggest scene of the story of the finale. So obviously Matt's been in hospital. He said that he's got Heather there and Kirsten as well, and he tells them obviously something's going on. Foggy knew he was going to win, and he was killed to hide something. Heather's just like, I can't be dealing with you right now. I need to disappear and give you some time.
She's the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't stand her. The more the series has gone on, I've liked her less and less. I'm like,
I really loved her character, especially compared to her comic counterpart. But now where are we? Like, I think they're gonna go very comic accurate and have her like unalive herself at some point when she sees what Fisk is doing and what she is involved in. I think that's how she goes out.
And obviously Fisk decides that Matt Murdock himself needs to be unalived. So he sends Buck to do it because he's like, rather he die a hero than live and breathe as a vigilante. So obviously he works out what's going on. He manages to obviously escape when the power goes out in the city. And Buck's not able to fulfill his duties there. And obviously he goes back to his flat and he walks in, sits down. Frank Castle's waiting for him, as we spoke about a little bit already. So again, great conversation with him. And Castle's like, someone called me, asked me to do a favor and make sure you got out safe. So that's all I'm here to do. And I just love the fact that he's like, when these fanboys come up here, I'm not going to play patty cake with them. It's like, I'm going to make sure they're fucked up. And Matt's just like, oh, for God's sake, do we need to go through this again? And just the interaction between these two is fantastic, isn't it?
It is. And like you said earlier, I love their chemistry. We always talk about Foggy and Matt, or Karen and Matt and Foggy. We never talk about Frank and Matt Murdock and their chemistry. They are so, so different as people. And it also shows with them not even acting in their interviews. They're phenomenal together.
They have been so good. I'm so glad that they got them back in together on this series. So the task force arrives though. Castle's just like, "Are you going to do this with your ass hanging out?" And he's just like, "Yeah, fuck you."
Yeah.
Gets his suit on, and obviously, great fight takes place. Obviously, Matt just trying to knock them all out and pretty much maim them as he always does. Frank happy as always to shoot the hell out of them. And even like Matt obviously trying to stop him at different points from killing people, and he's like, "I'm still going to do it anyway." And then obviously they've got what was it, Cole North, who very different from his comic book counterpart in this series to someone who was very much against corruption in the comics. So to see that complete opposite, I wonder if, because technically they've obviously insinuated he did die in this scene when the apartment blows up. I believe it was supposed to be his shoes that were hanging off the telephone wire or whatever it was in the street. But if we didn't see him on something, I always say if we don't see him die on screen, I had wondered if maybe he might have someone that comes back for season 2 and he ends up turning on the corrupt cops and play more into his comic book character. But just the fact that, yeah, you know, Castle wants to shoot him. Matt's like, no, there's no need to do that. And he's like, what about this guy? Do you want to save him? And then just shoots him like 3 times. It's just classic Frank. He's like, do you want to save him too? Bang, bang, bang.
No one has bigger audacity than Frank Castle.
It's just so brilliant. He's just like, you want to save all these guys? He's like, well, not this one. Bang. I just love it. It's just classic Frank. And obviously the grenade gets thrown in and they dive out the window together and go down to the street. And then a car rolls up. And Karen's back now. You said at the start that you don't like Karen. Tell me a little bit more about your not liking of this character.
Oh, she's just so annoying. It's like, just mind your business. Go somewhere. This entire show and the Netflix show, I was like, first of all, in the comics, you were a junkie who did porn and sold out Matt Murdock for a hit. Let's not take ourselves too seriously here. Like, calm down. And she's always just there. I don't like the trope of like, I'm a hero and I don't even have powers. I could do what I can this way, so I'm going to investigate. I don't like that. And I don't like her. And Bullseye is still around, so she could die.
Yeah, I think me and my wife and a few others have always been like, yeah, Karen is pretty fucking annoying though, isn't she?
Isn't she?
Yeah, like you said, always sticking her nose in, always wanting to make things her business.
It makes everything worse. Like, everything worse. Except like this one time, she did right by calling Frank, but she didn't have to show up. Like, what are you doing here? What are you going to do?
I love the fact that there seems to be a weird, almost like love triangle between the 3 characters as well, because obviously they built up a previous like affection between Frank and Karen. Obviously, we know that Matt and Karen have had relationships as well in the past. And it's just that comment where Frank was, where Matt had said to Frank, "Oh, you got a haircut and put on some aftershave. Is that for me?" And it's like, "Oh no, it's because he thought he might see Karen." And obviously they're back at Frank's little hideout and working out what to do next. And the whole thing of just where like she says to Frank, isn't it? She's like, I don't buy that you just don't care. You clearly care because you keep turning up and helping out, and all these times you keep standing up for the people that need it. So it's not about you just randomly killing or wanting to do this. It's like you do it because you care. And it's like you definitely see that in Frank though. It's not just, he's not always as blasé as he makes himself out to be, I think. Do you think there's anything to the fact that they keep showing Frank popping pills? Because this seems to be something they've shown like 3 times in this series now in the little bit he's been in. And I know that there was a big thing in the comics that Frank hated taking pills. He never would do it. He refused to take even like basic painkillers. And so they show Frank doing it here. Do you think it's just more of a realistic thing that, you know, in real life, you can't go through what Frank did and have a perfectly good body? You would probably need some painkillers to get through it. Or do you think they're putting it towards something else? Because he's supposedly got a much more involved storyline in season 2. So do you think,
and his special presentation?
Exactly, yeah. We don't know if that's going to take place around the same time as this series, or whether that's going to be something that shows before what he was doing beforehand. So am I just reading too much into it with the pills, or do you think there's something there?
I think it's both. I think he is going to, I'm so sorry, could I get up for 1 second? My kid is doing something horrible. Sorry.
It's absolutely fine.
about that. Oh. Wait, you muted my mic.
Oh, no, sorry, I muted myself.
Okay.
I forgot I'd muted myself.
Oh, so sorry about that. With the pills, I think it's both. I think he is taking it probably for a reason, but I think it's going to show up when he is captured and he doesn't have his pills. And it's like, what happens then?
Yeah, I don't know if I was just maybe reading too much into it, or it was just like the shit that he's been through so much shit, and his body's going to be battered and bruised that he just needs them now. So it's like a little thing. So, but obviously Matt and Karen work out here that they need to investigate what was happening with Foggy and the fact that he was going to file a motion and get his case dismissed and win. And obviously they go off and find out what's happened, with what's going on with Red Hook and the fact that it's a free port. And then obviously we find that Frank finds out where they are as well because he's got the police radio. And this is the bit I was talking about where I didn't see that Frank had any sort of real plan here. He decides to go down to Red Hook and it looks like he wants to sneak in and see what's going on. But he just goes in and immediately he just has a straight up ball with the task force and just goes at it with them. And obviously he's, as much as you think Frank Castle can take out a lot of guys, he's going to be outnumbered here and he obviously succumbs to them eventually. And they have that whole scene where they're sat down and they say to him, "We admire you. You know, you could serve alongside of us. You can join us." And Frank's like, "What the fuck? You don't know my pain. You don't know who I am, and yet you sit here and tell me you admire me." He's like, "I hate all of you."
Yeah. It was very funny that Marvel did that because there was a big thing in America where like the cops were wearing the logos and all that, and Marvel's like, "You're all morons. Look at Frank Castle say it himself. You're all idiots."
I do love that when they even put it into the comics when they had like the cops using his name and he's like, "I don't know what you guys are doing. You're absolute idiots." Yeah. So a bit of real life creeping into the art here. But and obviously then at the end of the episode we get Karen and Matt turn up to Red Hook and Matt says he's going to go and Karen's like, "Are you nuts? Clearly outnumbered. You're not in a fit state. There's nothing you can do right now. We need to raise a team to fight this and what's going on." And we get obviously the monologue that you've got to stand up for everything, and he's going to raise an army to do so. As we know, it's going to be the Defenders. And then obviously what we do also see is the fact that Fisk and Vanessa have got all these rich people and vigilantes locked up. So we see the swordsman, we see other people that were like the rich and powerful of New York, and we also see Frank there. That is not something that I imagined to see, was the fact he's actually got all these potential vigilantes, but the rich and powerful locked up to make sure that they do his bidding.
There was a lot I didn't expect. I didn't expect Swordman already to be in a cage. Fisk has a plan, and he has already put it well underway, and I really like that.
It's just the fact of Fisk has had such a turnaround. I mean, tell me what you think about this. So at the end of Echo, in the finale of Echo, he has that transformative experience where he's had some of his pain supposedly taken away. And so that's what I kind of thought, that he came into this series when he's like, I really want to help the city and believe that I can, because he's had this transformative experience. He's been a changed man. And just bit by bit, he falls straight back into being Kingpin. So do you feel it was almost like a waste of time that he's gone through that only to fall there? Or do you feel like it's them showing that the temptation and the pull to who he truly is just too much for him to not roll with?
I didn't think it was a waste of time. I think he did try his best. He went to therapy. He did whatever he could. He didn't kill Adam. He's not the one. So I think that was all very needed to show how truly evil he can be when he disregards all of that.
Does make me laugh. He's just like, I kept my word. I didn't kill Adam, but I did incarcerate him and beat the crap out of him a few times. So,
and I'm asking you to kill him.
Yeah, it did make me laugh. I was just like, I kept, considering he told us several times he didn't know where he was.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, actually, I've had him chained up. Well, not chained up and locked up. Just made me laugh. So, obviously, that's where we sort of end. We do get a post-credit scene as well. Goes back to Frank. He's chatting to this guard, gets him to shake his hand, and essentially just straight up snaps and breaks his arm and then takes the keys to escape. I quite loved that. I didn't like the fact that they were just going to end that season with Frank locked up. So got to get my boy Frank out of there. Anything you would have liked to have seen else in the post-credit scene, or were you just happy with what we got?
I didn't know we'd have a post-credit scene at all, so I was just happy with it. But I also want to know, like, does this give us a hint as to what his special presentation is going to be about?
That's what I wondered as well. Whether, like you said, they go in there and it's just him. I mean, they said it's going to be about 45 minutes to an hour long episode. And is it just going to be him just straight up mowing people down for that time, and just him fighting his way through the anti-task force for time and just killing off as many as he can in revenge? I think that would be a straight up gore fest for the Punisher. I'd love to see that. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I'd like to see it too. I thought it would be either it's that or what he's been doing for the past year.
I think there's always a lot of questions in there of like, because it's been 7-8 years since I think about 7 years in it since season 3 of Daredevil, and Punisher aired. So we always want to know what happened in those times. Did they disappear in the blip? Because that's not been confirmed either, what happened there. So I saw someone said that one of the scenes they really wanted to see was a flashback to what happened with Matt during the blip. Like we got one for Yelena during obviously the Hawkeye series. And what they wanted to show was either Matt getting dusted himself or Matt, say, fighting people as Daredevil, and all of a sudden they just start dusting around him and he just hears the heartbeats silence and he just can't work out what's going on. And I was like, that would have actually been a really chilling scene to have seen. Yeah. Just Matt completely confused by all these heartbeats around him just being silenced all of a sudden and just not knowing what's going on. I really wish, it's something I would like to have seen, but unfortunately I don't think we're going to get that. But season 1 is now at an end. Season 2, we know, is on the way, already confirmed to be released in March 2026. So we've only got less than a year to wait for it now. Yeah. What are your hopes and expectations? We know obviously a lot of it's going to be focused on the Daredevil's team versus the task force and the situation with Fisk. But what do you really want to see out of season 2?
I want to see Heather die.
Yeah, fair. I second that.
Yeah. Kind of want it to be Kingpin that does it, just to add a little burn to that.
Ooh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to see. I think they're setting up Karen and Frank Castle because Karen's going to die and they want to show a truly unhinged Frank Castle.
That's fair. I mean, one of my predictions was that I said that Vanessa would die by the end of the series, but that Fisk would be the one to do it. Or Bullseye. Well, I thought Fisk originally because he wouldn't be able to get past the old affair thing and the fact that, like, if she had set him up with Luca to kill him, and she had she had been genuine about doing that because she didn't think Fisk was the same guy. Her life would be easier without him. She could go back to running the business, and that Fisk found out that she did it, that he would then lose it and return to being like the really feral, unhinged Fisk and just absolutely wipe her out in a fit of rage. I just thought that might have been an interesting way to go. But obviously, like, I think Bullseye might be one to take her out again as well. I don't know why. I want to see Heather and I want to see Vanessa both get killed in season 2 because I predicted it for this season, didn't happen. I just think it would be really good for all the characters if you take away the distractions of all these people and just give like Fisk and Matt themselves to go up against, rather than having all that stuff going on the side. So, but yeah, I think a lot of people would thought maybe Karen would die in this season rather than Foggy. I think that was the big prediction. I don't think a lot of people saw Foggy being the one being killed off. So maybe you get your wish in season 2 for that.
But like, he's confirmed for season 2.
Yeah, I want, again, is this going to be flashbacks or is this going to be the whole comic storyline of the fact that Vanessa was behind his death and his faked death in the comics and was keeping him prisoner? So is that a possibility that he wasn't quite dead and that he was being shipped off in an ambulance and she got the ambulance and he's kept alive and she's keeping him somewhere? And I think there's a lot of questions. I
think neither. I think when Daredevil and Punisher had that heart-to-heart when he first saw Frank and he says, Foggy talks to me all the time, I think that's how we're going to get Foggy. We hear his voice.
That's fair. Anything else you want to see? Are you happy to see the Defenders back for season 2 as well?
Yeah, if they show them, because I have to say his army was looking pretty weak, like Josie, Karen.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Basically, like the cops. So it's
yeah,
like
it's just
Detective Kim, a couple of other cops that we didn't know, Cherry.
yeah,
Um,
it's just it's like Daredevil's little book clubs. Like we got him.
yeah,
No, no, you don't. You have newspapers on the windows. No, you don't.
I was thinking about Cherry because originally I'd said that his role could have been filled by Jessica Jones. Like you need a PI with a bit of muscle for your lawyer firm. Why Jessica Jones, that she would be perfect for it. She would want the study probably income as well. She would have been perfect for it. But maybe someone said maybe she's too much of a loose cannon to really do it properly for the law firm. So I can see them why they maybe went with Cherry, but. Do you not think that Cherry's filled a spot in this series that maybe couldn't have been filled by, what was it, the other cop Brett from the original series?
He hasn't acted in a couple years, so I wonder if he's just
Okay.
finished.
Hmm.
But I would have really liked to see him back. I think he also had great chemistry.
Yeah, I think he was great with Foggy and Matt. So
Yeah,
I was a bit disappointed we didn't see him back.
yeah,
To be fair, I
and
thought he could have risen the ranks in the police force by now and been someone that could have helped them quite a lot.
yeah, and like it would have hit a lot harder because he knew Foggy.
Hmm.
He would have gone through that grief period as well.
Just something that popped into my head the other day. I was just like, oh, I really wish we'd have had Brett back, and he could have easily taken Cherry's spot as someone that became like a confident and investigator for Matt after the death of Foggy. So, but anyway, I digress in the fact
Mhm.
that. Anything else you wanna throw in about season 1 of Daredevil Born Again?
I think they mishandled Muse very, very horribly.
Really, tell me more.
Well, I didn't want him to have an identity. That's his whole thing in the
Hmm.
comics is he doesn't have
Yeah.
an identity. The mask is always there. And I think that added so many layers to the character, but they made him some little guy who has the hots for his therapist and daddy issues.
And what about this whole thing about the fact that he can go toe to toe and fight with Daredevil when he had 3 months of Taekwondo training when he was 16? That was so weak.
Eh,
Um,
yeah, and like the one in the comics has powers. There's a reason why
hmm.
he can fight so well. He was an Inhuman. There was a lot, and he's also still around. He died in the comics, but he's in hell, like in Daredevil Unleash Hell. Erica Schultz, it's ongoing right now. He comes up and possesses people. Like that's wild. And you could have just whatever.
I think, yeah, because I heard some people go, "Oh, he only had a short run as Muse in the comics, so therefore it doesn't matter that he had a short run here because it's not like he was like fleshed out for it for decades like some of the other characters were." I'm like, still, you could have you built him up for a while, and then you gave him essentially like 2 episodes before killing him off again, and
Yeah.
having Heather kill him as well, like out of self defense. And it just didn't like the overarching bad guy is always going to be Fisk, but to have another bad guy that you built up from the trailers as well as like, okay, this really fucking like twisted character from the comics is coming to the series. He's so interesting. He could have had so much depth to him, and yet, yeah, to be only really there for like 2 episodes. And then be done with him. I definitely would have liked to have seen him stretched out over more of this series. Even if they did kill him off in the end, like they have done, I would have liked to have seen him play more of a role throughout the series rather than the guy who's writing murals across the city and then he's in it for 2 episodes.
Yeah, he is a character that should die at some point because he is a loose cannon.
Yeah.
But I think they should look at like Bullseye. These street level heroes, they have villains that are ongoing that sometimes show up, that sometimes don't. They should be able to keep some off to the side or in the back of the hero's mind because it's like if you're going off the comics, it's not always going to be a huge hedge fund situation. It's not always going to be a political thing. It's sometimes they just fight the bad guys.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Oh, and Angela, Hector's niece. Do you see a future for her as White Tiger in the MCU at all? They seem to have been setting that up. Rumors are that she could return in a future series, or possibly even get her own little mini series. Would you like to see that?
I don't think she get her own miniseries, but I could see her joining the Young Avengers.
Fair.
Yeah.
I think they could set it up in season 2, couldn't they? It's just a little plot line here and there, and because
Yeah.
she seemed to have got the suit, or her family have the suit and the amulet. So
Yeah.
I think definitely planting seeds for the future if they want to go down that route, aren't they? So I think that pretty much wraps up then our finale chat for Daredevil. What would you give the series rating? Because a lot of people obviously comparing it to the Netflix series, which I think they would have had to have been really on point to be matching what those series did. And to me, they didn't quite hit those heights. You can, like I said, that we said at the start, you can definitely see the difference in the episodes between which was the new writers that came in versus what was already written, I think. But yeah, where do you rate this series out of 10?
I would say a 9 because, like you said, there was those, you could see where they kept the old stuff, like the bank episode, which was a fantastic episode, but it made no sense to have it there. And Muse, so they got docked a point.
Well, okay, I didn't quite have it that high, to be fair. Maybe I was being mean. I think I've got a bit meaner recently in my ratings.
That's okay.
Because I don't know. I was thinking maybe I've been too generous with things in the past. I think I had it at like a 7.8. I don't know if that's maybe too low. I think I think maybe I'm one of those people that think so highly of the Netflix series, which is interesting because I think a lot of people, when they rate the Netflix series, like season 2, even though season 2 is fantastic, that's generally the bottom of the 3 from what I've seen people give it. Season 1 was fantastic. People seem to rate season 3 as pretty much the highest out of the 3, and season 2 seems to come in third place, even though they're all highly rated series. But for me, I think because of the storyline with Frank and then the Hand as well, I kind of like season 2 is almost my favorite, but that's, I think, a personal bias because of how much I love the Punisher. The Punisher is, I think, probably my number 2 favorite character of all time from the comics, and so I pretty much have him up there. I get blinded when Frank comes into things. So I think maybe because I rate the Netflix series so highly, I kind of rated this one a bit lower because I thought they could have done certainly better in different places throughout of it. And I did love the bank. Sometimes I complain about filler episodes as well because I'm like, I don't want filler episodes. When something's only 8 or 9 episodes, you need it to be all plot. And then to have one episode that was completely distracted from everything else. But it worked actually really well, I thought, for the most part. I did really enjoy it. I don't think we saw enough Daredevil in this series. I know it was all about Born Again, literally in the name of Born Again. Yeah. So he needed him to go through something and then come back to being Daredevil. But still, I think when there were complaints about the original storyline where he didn't suit up for like 5 or 6 episodes until we got him in the suit, and then we see him for 10 minutes at the start and then get him again until, what was it, end of episode 4, episode 5, before we see him in the suit again. You've still got almost half a series without seeing him in the suit.
Well, I think the complaints, it was reported that when he did suit up in the original show, it was a flashback. It wasn't him doing anything. It was just him looking back.
Well, I'm glad Kevin Feige and others stepped in and said, we're changing things around.
Well, no, it wasn't. I've met Vincent D'Onofrio about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And he said it was him and Charlie Cox are the ones that said, we don't want to do this. We don't like this. I mean, they were like, none of us are happy. We don't like this. The fans aren't going to be happy. The Punisher walked away. So what are we doing? And then they were the ones that alerted Kevin and was like, you need to watch what's filmed. We need to figure something out. And that's when Kevin watched it and then fired the whole creative team. Yeah.
Well, that is really interesting. Straight from the horse's mouth. You heard it here from Megan.
Yeah.
Blimey. Well, I'm glad, because it obviously shows that these guys care about the characters.
Exactly.
And they want it to be good. Not just because it's personal glory either. They want it for the fans, as like you just said. So I'm really happy, actually, to learn that. I mean, it was great anyway, that if it had been Kevin Feige that had stepped in and gone, we don't like any of this. What are you doing? Let's change it all anyway. That would have been good, because it was them recognizing it wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
But to then have the actors themselves step in and go, what the fuck is this? this? Can we
Yeah.
change this? That's actually really good. I'm glad to hear that. Let's end that on that good note, to be fair. Megan, thank you so much for coming in. I really appreciate you coming in. Loved having you on for the second time on the podcast. It's absolutely been a pleasure. Vigilante Vibes continues to go from strength to strength under your stewardship. So I'm really happy that the show's been doing so well, even if it's been keeping you super, super busy.
Yeah.
Tell everybody at home exactly where they can find it if they're not familiar already.
Well, thank you for those beautiful words. You can find me anywhere by looking at Vigilante Vibes Podcast. And yeah, that's me.
I'm going to be on Why So Serious podcast for the Americans, technically later on today at 9 p.m. PST time to, I'm guessing on their show to talk about Daredevil finale and have a chat with them about it. And then I'll be back on Sunday evening with Clan Brandalorian at 5 p.m. CST, 11 p.m. UK time. We've got an open topic Star Wars chat. We've done this before. Great, loads of people joined in on the live stream, just asking questions, just chatting Star Wars in general. No set topic, just a bit of fun before Andor kicks off next week. So make sure you're tuning in for that as well. But until next time, everyone, I shall obviously see you very soon. But take care, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Galactic Core Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. But until next time, go get your geek on.